There's a difference between a predator and the prey. Predator is usually someone that already has enough respect by the other inmates to be able to be a predator.
James, tell me what happened to you when you were sent to the juvenile detention center.
I was 14 years old and I got caught selling drugs at school, and I was sent to a juvenile detention facility. I was approached by a few other guys while I was there in the gym. They called me into the weight room, and 3 of them raped me in the weight room.
That first time, did you tell the authorities what had happened?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I was too ashamed, felt guilty.
What did you do as an adult to get you sent to prison, back to prison?
Same thing, selling drugs. On the first day, I was approached by a guy named Tyrone, and he was explaining to me that I had to be with someone. I told him that I wasn't interested, that I had no reason to be involved in that, and that I was just there to do my time. The next day, I went into the shower. There was another gang member that threw me against the wall and told me that I was going to perform oral sex on him. While that was going on, I was approached. Tyrone came in and approached the guy and basically stopped him. The next day, and he came into my cell. That was the first time that he had indicated to me that I had protected you, so now you owe me.
And what did he do?
He asked me to perform oral sex on him.
And did you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you yell for help? Did you call for help? What did you do?
No. I basically consented. I felt like that he was providing me some type of security.
If you had resisted him, what do you think might have happened?
I probably would have been savagely beaten. There are many blind spots. Cells, showers, in the kitchen, pantry spaces, laundry rooms, and in some cases, in broom closets. If there's someone performing sex and someone is basically watching the guard and informing them, hey, the guard's coming. So it's always you always have like a watch out, which makes it very difficult for the officer to basically be able to walk up on anything, because some way you'll know when he's coming.
When was the first time that you asked for help from the authorities?
Actually, about 3 months later, after things had begun to start intensifying. The sex act started getting more grotesque. I went through the grievance process, asking to be placed into safekeeping.
What proof do you have of this? I mean, what are you bringing to the board for us to make some
my word.
I was denied for a reason for lack of evidence.
Did they investigate it?
No, ma'am.
So the letter just came back denied?
Denied.
James, we're not going to argue about this. Your request is denied.
Do you blame the Department of Corrections?
Yes. Most of the mindset from administrators is that, you're in prison, you're supposed to survive on your own.
I'm aware that this televised interview is fictionalized,
but the scenario it describes is certainly familiar to those of us who work in corrections. A situation in which an inmate offers to protect another one from violent sexual assault and then demands his due and performs sexual assault on the other inmate is something that we know occurs. The issues that the interview raises, issues about classification, investigation, the medical response, training, these are all issues that we need to address if we're to deal effectively with the problem of prison rape.
When we're looking at prison rape, we have to define what it is. And I think what it is any type of sexual relationship or intimate relationship between two individuals that are incarcerated. You typically are going to end up having the biggest fish in the pond, managing and trying to control other individuals. And so somebody may be willing for their own safety and protection to be involved in a sexual relationship, and so that may be quote unquote consenting, when in fact it's not.
Prison rape is an uncomfortable subject, but it does occur and it tarnishes the reputation of the corrections profession.
The Prison Rape Elimination Act was initially created in order to address what many felt was a lack of accountability or lack of attention to the issues of rape in prisons. While there is law that deals with staff sexual misconduct with inmates, there wasn't any real law that dealt with prisoner-on-prisoner rape.
The Prison Rape Elimination Act was passed with broad support across the political spectrum. When the bill first surfaced, it was something that caught the corrections profession unaware. We had not been involved in crafting the bill. However, Congress was interested in knowing how corrections directors felt about the legislation. Fortunately, our core concerns were heard and addressed, and this legislation is far more useful to corrections departments now than when it was initially proposed.
Even though the name of it is the Prison Rape Elimination Act, it's really defined much more broadly than that in terms of the facilities that are impacted.
The whole concept or the idea of rape within prison institutions has always been something of an unknown.
The legislation is intended to measure its incidence and also to assist jurisdictions in implementing ways to deal with the occurrence of prison rape.
When we talk about inmate rape, we're talking about a phenomena that staff and administrators just have not had to face it. And one of the reasons is because it's not something that's reported. It is not information that's shared when that offender exits the prison door.
Prisons are like many other quasi-military or paramilitary environments. They focus on teamwork, they focus on loyalty, and those are absolutely good things, but the negative side of that is people don't want to be snitches. They don't want to break what's called the code of silence.
I worked in corrections for over 20 years. And the thing that I learned was there were some things you just didn't talk about.
I think the first step to stopping prison rape and sexual assault in prisons is well underway, and that is to name it and acknowledge it. Whether it's 2% or 22%, we need to be very deliberate in the tools that we design. The strategies, for instance, may be very different between men's facilities, women's facilities, and juvenile facilities. Under the law, the standards are currently being developed.
Given the right kind of training, a correctional officer could really benefit from having this information. I can have my eyes open to those kinds of perpetrators.
The National Institute of Corrections has been tasked with doing, I think, what they probably do best, and that is to offer training and technical assistance to the field.
A lot of times it's the rapport that you build up with the inmates, whereas they can come to you.
Well, the Prison Rape Elimination Act contains a very substantial grant program.
The intent of the law is to address all sexual assault in correctional facilities. The law covers inmate-on-inmate assault, but additionally speaks very clearly to the important area of staff sexual misconduct with inmates. Under the law, rape is discussed not only as violent penetration, but also sexual fondling and coercive acts of a sexual nature.
We don't tolerate that type of behavior. We take disciplinary action against them if they're caught or involved in that type of relationship, because it's just not appropriate.
Look, listen up, man. I hear you need some protection, man.
No, I don't need no protection.
Look,
I'm
you
all right.
be my bitch.
Nah, it's not happening.
I can protect you from
I don't need
everybody
the protection.
in here, man.
It's not.
Prison rape breeds more violence in the institutions. It reinforces the idea that staff is not in charge of what happens in the facilities. It empowers inmates to dominate others. Inmates will fight in order to make it clear that they are not about to be victims.
Not only is this going to be an issue for the staff member who's involved, but it's also going to be an employment issue for the head of the corrections department, okay, because that person will ultimately be held liable either civilly, criminally, or in terms of loss of employment.
The bottom line to all of this is public safety and how an inmate may respond to the anger, the frustration, the trauma of being victimized in such a manner could play itself out in the community.
There's also a very serious public health risk if offenders are rejoining us in our communities and they have higher incidence of sexually transmitted diseases.
I think prison rape will probably be like other sex offenses, which means that they'll be underreported. Prevalence will be hard to figure out.
It's clear that the new law will require a survey that determines the incidence of prison rape, that there will be a sample of prisons, jails, police lockups, community corrections all across the nation, and that in every state there will be some research done.
Just as in the past you received the census from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, you will be getting a questionnaire that specifically relates to inmate-on-inmate rape and staff sexual misconduct, and you are required to fill out that form.
The actual facilities will be sampled randomly. We will be selecting about 10% of the 8,700 facilities nationwide. We are required under the Act to select at least one prison in every state, one jail in every state, and one juvenile facility in every state. We are developing methodologies for victim self-reports. This methodology is known as audio CASI, audio computer-assisted self-interviewing, and we'll be testing those methodologies in the next 18 months.
Based on that information and on that data collection, the Prison Rape Elimination Act provides for a process where the jurisdictions that have the 3 highest incidents And the two lowest incidents of misconduct or rape are then called in for hearing to talk about what went wrong or to talk about what went well. And I think that that's a really positive development.
I welcome the opportunity to have that information gathered and shared with me in a way that I can then take it and use it in a positive way, and know either it'll validate that what we're doing is working and positive, or it'll tell me that we're not doing enough.
The information that we get from this research will certainly inform us all as to the amount of sexual assault that's occurring in correctional facilities.
I think the important part for correctional administrators now is to do what I'm beginning to certainly see happening, and that's really step up to the plate, to name this as an important issue, to use the resources that they have to do good training with staff and put policy in place, and to also use the resources available now through the National Institute of Corrections for technical assistance. There's some very practical ways that administrators can do that without it being very costly.
As administrators, we need to provide leadership on this issue. We need to make it clear to our staff that we do not want it swept under the rug, that in fact we want to know when these cases occur, and that we expect our personnel to respond effectively and to report properly, and that if they fail to intervene and if they fail to report, then they will be held accountable.
At the end of the day, our responsibility is to ensure the safety and security of those persons remanded to our custody.
When an inmate comes forward with an allegation that he has been raped, sexually abused, staff need to respond. One of the protocols should be immediate referral to health services for a medical evaluation.
Okay, what's your name, sir?
Charles
The use of rape kits is a necessity.
They need to do a physical examination, and they need to retain whatever evidence they can.
Okay.
All right?
The investigation is very important. It must be done swiftly and it must be done thoroughly.
2 inmates were holding me down.
Evidence should be carefully collected and properly stored. An inmate who makes an allegation of this nature must be put in a safe place where he is not subject to retaliation. Mental health services must be ready to assist the inmate in working through the depression, the anger, and the feelings of responsibility that an inmate may have. The findings must be carefully documented. There must be statements taken from witnesses.
It had nothing to do with that shit, man.
There must be interrogation of suspects. There must be careful description of physical evidence. And it must all be recorded, because ultimately these cases, if founded, should result in discipline and possibly prosecution.
You know, there is liability for the institution. The first question is whether you had policies, procedures, training in place to prevent this. Did you investigate it properly? And did you sanction properly?
To get the Prison Rape Elimination Act into reality, it's going to take a real cultural shift. There has to be this whole new approach to how we manage offenders, both within our institutions and in the community.
We're going to get you someone to talk to. We're going to move you to protective custody. You don't need to worry about that. But what I need for
Much of that lies with how we treat people.
Do I think that's going to make it all go away and it not to be anywhere? I'm not that naive, but do I think that it's the right thing to do and what we should take the responsibility to do? Yes.
If we deny that prison rape occurs, we're sticking our heads in the sand. The fact is that as correctional professionals, we have an obligation to run safe and secure institutions. Prison rape complicates that mission, and we deny it at our peril.
The
video you have just watched is intended to assist you in understanding the scope of the Prison Rape Elimination Act. This introductory video and companion training resource kit emphasizes the importance each of you have in implementing policy and practice that assures compliance with the law. The law covers many areas of correctional practice and requires response from every correctional system in the United States. With the help of experienced practitioners and in close collaboration with our federal partners, NIC will continue to offer assistance to the field through a major NIC Institute initiative on prison rape. During the last decade, NIC has provided numerous strategies to address staff sexual misconduct, one aspect of the law. While our work in this area continues, we will additionally focus on the dynamics of inmate-on-inmate assault and the ways in which sexual exploitation occurs in our institutions. As with staff sexual misconduct, we recognize the importance of offering strategies specific to the various populations we serve. For instance, we understand the dynamics will be different in women's facilities just as there are differences in jails and prisons and community corrections. Please visit our NIC website at nicic.org or call us at 1-800-994